Call the meeting of the Airport Authority to order. Morning, everyone. First item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Anybody have any changes or additions? Hearing none, we'll approve the minutes as published. Airport vouchers totaling $65,548.35. Any questions on those? Call for a motion.
So moved.
Seconded.
And any other discussion? Hearing none, call for the question.
Hingham? Yes. Lind?
Yeah.
Yes. Clark?
Aye.
Hogan?
Aye. Approve individual vouchers. We have A through C. Entertain a motion on those.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the question.
Hingham? Aye. Lind?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Hogan?
Aye. Received communication from I. Bailey regarding the SP Plus financial review.
So I mentioned this at our last meeting, so today's the day for the official report. I think it was in your packets that we engaged Ide Bailey to do a financial review of SB Plus, and they picked it up over a fiscal year, so it has part of the contract that was in place prior to January 1st and then the new contract from January 1st to current date. And you can see how they tested multiple transactions from July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. They picked November of 2018, March 2019, and June of 2019. Went through the general ledger for the 3 months listed and applied the lease provisions to those months. And of course 2018 is a little bit different than 2019. And selected 25 days from the 3 months selected for the testing period. And as you can see, they didn't find any discrepancies in anything that they found, and we were paid all the revenue that was due for both of those. So no exceptions were found as a result of the procedure that they performed.
Clean.
Okay, any questions on that? Number 5, receive bids and recommendations for the South General Aviation Area ramp lighting improvements.
So Jeff put out a bid to some local contractors to improve the lighting in our South GA area. They're older incandescent lights, so this would upgrade them to LED lighting. It would significantly improve the lighting around the UPS operating area. 2 bids were received. One was from Moorhead Electric and the other from Sun Electric. Strata declined to bid, and I believe the recommendation is to award it to Sun Electric for $49,000.
Can you show us the area that you're going to do?
It's the entire South General Aviation ramp.
The whole,
Yes, everywhere where there's a high mast lights.
all the way over to the Highway Patrol. Or
Correct.
Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. Yep. So everything that's on this map here, where the high tall poles are,
Okay.
they were put in, God, many years ago. I don't know how, 20 some years ago.
Yeah, it's basically just adding fixtures to the existing light poles and replacing some conductors inside the
So it's not all the way over to the sheriff's side, sheriff's office, or,
No.
Or, yeah, there aren't any lights over in that area.
I know.
Yeah. Need one?
Yes. It's just sporty when you go on the east side between the T hangars and the sheriff's department. It's really narrow, and it's just a little sporty when you're driving through there at night with wings that are just as wide as the pavement. So
Okay. We'll take a look at that.
if you stay on the line, you're okay.
Look at adding one at some point. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And if it's not covered in snow. Okay, and number 6 is receive an
Need a
update.
motion to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, need a motion on that.
So moved.
Second.
Got a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Received the update on the SRE building, Terry.
Yeah, so I don't know if I need to start off an apology or how that works, but I think there was some miscommunication with regards to starting the project this fall that we could actually use it this winter, and that would have never happened. Okay, so we were trying to push that really hard. We had actually, had to take some time from a schematic design and go through all the different possibilities. So that took more time than we would have liked. But I mean, I think it's a great exercise, and it got us where we want to be. So then there's complications as well with just all the stuff that FAA is going to make us do, and we were really pushing hard on my engineers to get it done to be able to bid it this fall. And after looking at time frames of materials, and so today nothing is sitting in a yard waiting to bring out to a job. It's all made to order, and a lot of times it's anywhere from 8 to 16 weeks after a shop drawing is done. So we put out the shop drawings, we put out drawings to the contractors, they bid it. Once they get the bid, they start working with their suppliers. In 2, 3, 4 weeks, we get a shop drawing, we review it, probably anywhere less than 2 weeks, and then it goes to the shop, and it takes 12 to 16 weeks to get it. So we're kind of thinking we might be better off slowing the process down and actually bidding it in December for a spring start. What that does for us is it gives us a little better opportunity to think things through a little bit. So like we spent about 2 or 3 hours with Henry and Troy the other day, last week, just walking through the shop and talking about different ways to do things. They have lots of things in the shop, and then also talked about stuff in the new building we're going to do. What we'll do then is come back after we have something on paper and sit down with them again and take a look at it, and that always spurs some conversation, and we'll probably do that one more time after that. And what that will do then is, right now typically contractors, if they're busy trying to button things up and getting things ready for winter and that kind of stuff, and so they're probably not going to be as interested in bidding the project. So we think if we bid it in December, we'll actually get more activity on it. Then what happens is we have the whole winter to go through that shop drawing phase. And so we can literally hit the ground running with material here in the spring, and then probably have it done October, November pretty easily. And then we're ready for winter season. And I think it's probably a better tack all the way around. I think we have less mistakes, less, those kind of things to get it done. We also have, we got to do an environmental assessment for the FAA, and there's a lot of other things. The other thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to get every inch qualified for an AIP funding, and so that might take a little bit of back and forth negotiating to try to make that happen as well. So at least we'll know when we start the project, what's going to be AIP and what's not. Right now we think a lot of it is, but we just don't know. So that's some of the stuff that we'll be going through during that process. We wouldn't necessarily have to have that done before we start the project, but I think Sean would really like to know where we sit, so we can know what we're going to get reimbursed for. So we're we're probably going to go, instead of weekly meetings, to bi-weekly meetings. We anticipate being done in November, bidding it in December, probably early December, mid-December, for a spring start. And we'll set a date based on weather and stuff like that. But that will really, I think, typically what happens today, if we're doing anything that just continually goes through from design to bid to construction, is we get a foundation in and then sit and wait for 2 months before steel shows up, because we just got to wait for steel, and we can get that much done, but we still wait for steel, and that's just the way it is. So so that's my update. Any questions?
No.
Two things. Well, so Jeff, Sherry's going to have us do an environmental assessment. It won't be a CADX.
I think it'll be just a documented CADX. I think she's on vacation right now.
All right.
When she gets back, we need to get with her quickly to figure out what exactly she's going to require of that, as far as any type of
So he'd sent off information to Sherry Lars, who's the environmental
Right.
contact with the FAA office in Bismarck. So anytime anything's built on airport property, you might have to do a wetland delineation, a full-blown environmental assessment, historic native artifacts research. There's a whole full-blown thing that would trigger, but we'll see where that goes. And then I had a conversation with Dan yesterday. So the roof on the existing shop is at the end of its useful life,
That's
or
what
probably
Dan
has
said,
been.
yeah,
So
yeah.
is this an opportunity to
Yep,
re-roof that as an alternate?
exactly.
part of
That's
this?
what we would do, as do it as an alternate.
And that wouldn't be eligible for anything, that would just be a maintenance thing, but we would put it out for bid to re-roof it. It's, it leaks a lot, right, Henry?
It does.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about that is then you'd have a roofer come up to do the new one. They either do this one beforehand, probably this one beforehand, and then do the other one. Yeah.
Okay. So that'll be part of what they put together, is to re-roof the existing shop. It was built in '89, I think, so
Yep.
it's been patched multiple times. So
Yeah, and then it's a good time to, typically, depending on how many roofs and leaks, then we take out sections of insulation that are soggy or whatever, and get that back to shape. So,
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Number 7 is receive an update on the cargo apron expansion.
Mr. Klein.
All right, where we're at right now is we're working through the capture and treatment of the de-icing fluid that the cargo operators use to de-ice the aircraft. And obviously that has to be dealt with so the airport can stay compliant with the stormwater permit. When we originally set the project up, we were hoping that we could, take all the runoff with the glycol in it and discharge it to the sanitary sewer system. Obviously with the approval of the wastewater treatment plant, they weren't in support of that idea. So now we're going back and going through some options or alternative options to deal with it. And it seems like what the preferred alternative is now is to take all the runoff and get it up to the lagoons. And presents a problem from the standpoint that, to do that, we have to have a lift station, a force main. We have to, make sure that we have easements acquired for be able to cross County Drain 10, that kind of thing. So until we have a agreed upon solution for the treatment and disposal with the wastewater treatment plants, which it seems like that's going to be the preferred alternative, we can't complete our designs, and we're working quickly to try to get that accomplished. I would hope that we could have this bid out, right after the first of the year, because our goal is we need to start construction, first thing possible come springtime. So we'd have all of 2020 to construct, and then with UPS moving up there, I believe would be the spring of 2021, if I'm not mistaken. So we likely could get into a situation where, what we bid out, after the first of the year isn't going to have this pump station and force main as part of it. That'll be a separate project, and we'll have to have an interim solution, to bridge it for the short term and that until we can get the force main constructed.
What's your interim solution? Truck it up there?
I haven't. That is one of the options, and it's not a good one because it's expensive and it's just not the. It's inconvenient. So
In 2021 or 2022, the city will have new digesters over at the wastewater plant. And actually, if the concentration of the runoff is at a certain level, I think they would be agreeable to allow us to just dump it right into the digesters, and it actually helps their process. But that has to be determined. It all depends. The more pure the glycol is when it's captured, the more likely they might take it in the
Right.
digesters. And I don't know that they charge us for that.
So the issue with that, you still have to get it there, and then that was it, force main or trucking,
Right.
same problem to get it up to the lagoons.
So we'll have to truck it. So we'll see.
Well, you wanna investigate that, and see if the sewer pumper guys, would do that kind of thing and use that as a bridge to maybe get us through a couple of years instead of spending a huge amount of money to, do a lift station and all that stuff.
Yep, we can do that.
Yeah, because Jetway Services has trucks that they can haul like 6,000 gallons at a time. I don't know, how many gallons, Henry, do you think, like are out here in this when we pump it, is it, what's it hold? The underground pit, right out here on the ramp or in the big underground vault.
And
Do you know how many gallons that holds?
No, well, the stormwater structure?
Yeah, that captures the runoff.
We collected prior to that. So the sites out there only hold about 550 gallons.
Okay. So, yeah, it doesn't take much.
So that's until we get this glycol treatment and their capture and disposal taken care of. You know, we kind of, that's the critical path we need to get figured out here. So
Building the apron's easy.
yeah,
Rest is time consuming.
yep. So yeah, the actual design of the apron is more or less done. I mean, there's like Sean said, there's nothing to it. It's easy. It's just it's the utility work and coordination.
how much does the pipeline cost and a lift station?
I don't even want to venture a guess right now. So I mean, it's not going to be cheap. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, the other,
Cheaper to truck it for a little while.
yeah, and I think there's still another option, we just have to explore what the cost is. So you take the Cass Clay Creamery here in town, they ship product out to the wastewater plant, but they pay a fee because it's high oxygen demand. That's another alternative. If we come to some terms with the city to just pump it into the current sanitary sewer, have a holding pond and then meter it to them, there's an expense. I don't know what that full expense is, but it could be $60,000, $70,000 a year for them to treat runoff, of which if we have the right formula in place, we can recover some of that proportionally from FedEx and UPS for their share of what the glycol is. It's a little bit more difficult to do that over here. Right, I mean, that was one of the options we can
It's
meter.
an option, but I don't think it's the wastewater. It would be the wastewater treatment plant last option
be their
because they don't
last
feel they have
choice.
enough capacity to handle the glycol, which is high in DOD. So
Right. So, more to come.
Where can we find some land to make a holding pond?
Yeah. So, but UPS is in the process right now of putting out a request for proposals or qualifications to architects and engineers for 3 projects here, Cedar Rapids and Tampa. So, companies like Mead and Hunt and others will have an opportunity to be the architect or engineers of record for these 3 projects. They may hire one firm to do all 3, or they might split it up and do 3 different firms based on the country. So that process is in place. I think their goal is to have their plans and specs finished by February so that they can go out for bids to contractors in all 3 cities and then start as soon as the spring allows them to. So we'll see.
Well, this is certainly going to be an issue as we expand the ramp here as well. Correct?
correct, and that was one of the things that we were looking to is okay, we have this system for the cargo apron, but holistically from the airport's point of view, there's still something to be done on the terminal ramp,
Right.
and we would look at that once the apron is reconstructed, because that needs to be done within the next few years, because it's just in it's in tough shape, to say the least. So
Yeah. We're going to need to look at something that fits the entire airport. Anything on the South GA that, I know there's not much there now except for UPS, but
So with UPS for this coming winter, we plan to plug the storm inlets, and we still operate our vacuum sweeper. There may be times where if we don't have someone available, I've suggested, and I got to chat more with Henry and Darren about it, but UPS is willing to have an employee trained on our vacuum sweeper at times when we're too busy to go out and vacuum up their area. We'll have to play that by ear. They also talked about maybe having a Fargo Jet Center employee do it under a contract with them. So we'll have to talk through that with Henry and others. If we don't have someone available to vacuum sweep, they're willing to have someone trained to do it. And once the spring comes, if there's runoff, we would probably do some testing, and then once it gets to a certain level, then let it go through the stormwater system like it is currently right now. And try and capture as much as we can and then dispose of it properly. So that's the temporary solution. But once UPS moves out of the South GA, there's very
Any
little, if
de-icing
any,
down there.
de-icing.
They-
Yeah, not, it'd be rare.
Almost all the airplanes are inside,
Yeah,
so they don't,
so it'd be a
very
rare
little
event.
de-icing is done.
And I don't think you do too much de-icing up on your end, very seldom. So it's not really an issue there based on the concentration that they use. So we'll keep working on it.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
How about, let's see, receive an update on Airport Information Center.
So I was provided, so Nancy Olson at Lutheran Social Services provided me with an MOU. There's a worksheet that I would have to fill out for them to move forward as an entity that could possibly manage the information center through the RSVP program, which is a federal program. As I mentioned at our last meeting, the first response from the federal contact that they have is that if the positions were paid positions, which they had been by the Convention Bureau, they couldn't provide volunteers. But I clarified with Nancy that they were paid by the Convention Bureau, not the Airport Authority. So therefore, the request is coming from the Airport Authority, who hasn't paid volunteers, and therefore they're willing to go forward and see if they can get a different response from the federal contacts. If that comes back to the negative, then we're kind of stuck. At least one of the current employees down there, Darlene Josie, is willing to stay on, and she's been a great coordinator down there to make sure things are full, brochures are out and so forth, and helping people. We could possibly have two more of the current staff that are down there, but we'll see. So there's another gentleman that is the contact for the RSVP program. His name is Ken Enochson. I haven't spoke with him yet, but I'll get this returned to them this week and see if there's an opportunity for RSVP to come back out and do what they did for many, many, many years out here and get them back in operation. So that's where we sit with that. So September 1st is the date. Darlene's still going to come out. I'm guessing there'll be two others that might still come out and fulfill their shifts even though it's not paid positions. So we'll see. They're not in it for the money, they're in it for just to be here and have something to do and engage with people and work, so.
Both her and Ralph volunteer for all
Right.
kinds of things.
Right. So that there would work out.
All right, airport construction security update.
Security-wise, I don't know that we have anything. Darren's out today, no TSA folks. Construction-related, so as you're aware, at the last meeting, you approved Terry's contract for the snow removal equipment building subject to an independent fee review. That was done by MAS Airport Services in Grand Canyon, Arizona. And they came back with a cost, their estimated cost for the services was $535,357, and Terry's was just a little over $500,000. So this fulfills or checks the box for the FAA that we had an independent fee review, and Terry's fee proposal was well in line with what our independent fee reviewer determined. So that's just an update on that. So that's done. So the contract was signed and returned to Terry for the snow removal equipment building. Another construction-related item, and I think I brought it with me if I didn't, is we talked about the striping
Yes.
at the last meeting, and there's only one company that's available. It's called North Star, and it was $183,000 for them to go out and restripe everything that we need to have done. So that's the only bid that we got in the proposal. It's the only one around. So that's they'll probably get started, Henry, in a couple weeks to do that.
They thought either next week or the week following.
And did we find some daylight hours for them, some blocks?
Yes, I'm still working with Darren Anderson, but there is, other than one aircraft arrival, it sounds like 8:30 to approximately 4:30 p.m. There will be a window for a number of days.
What we're going to try and do is move traffic up to the east-west runway and give them as much time as they can on the primary runway during daylight hours. The paint dries a lot quicker during the day as opposed to night, and we get them out there working on that. So they'll get started whenever Henry gets them going. So let's see. September meeting dates, I'll be at a Foreign Trade Zone conference. I think there's a couple of others gone
I'm
for
going.
September 10th. So at this point, we would have one meeting in September, which would be the
24th.
September 24th. And prior to that, we have a request for proposals that I think the ad stopped running yesterday for professional employer organization services. Only one firm has responded, that was Pro Resources. Nobody else has called. It's in the newspaper, it's on the internet. I think I sent out to you, I've got a 20-some page detailed RFP. I don't know if did you get that? If you want to look through it, I'll email that out to you. So it goes through a whole bunch of different scenarios for whoever responds, and I'll get that to you today. So they're due at 2 o'clock on September 16th. There's an evaluation process that we would go through on the proposals to score them, and then hopefully at that meeting on the 24th we can consider that if that's what we decide to do. I know that there was some correspondence from the mayor on other items. If we decide to do this transition, Darren has been working with the computer provider that we have for the Wi-Fi here, SNL Computers, to go through and figure out everything that we would need to start as a small business. So empty building, we want computers, phones, etc. They're going through that process now, and I don't know if Leo's gotten back to Darren yet. Darren's been out since his father passed away, so we'll hopefully have an update with that by the September meeting. Let's see, I had a conversation yesterday with a representative of the company that provides the accounting software that we're using right now through the city. It's called HTE, and he's going to put together a package for a new, they call it a server-based program, but it's really what they do for small businesses. It's in the cloud, so we wouldn't need any equipment. You can access it with your phone or any current laptop. You get your sign-in logs, and it's done in the cloud, the entire accounting program. And he's confident that everything that we have, all of our history on this HT program would just work right in. I don't know what that cost is going to be. Sioux Falls uses a program called Peachtree, and Grand Forks uses QuickBooks. And he didn't see any problem with all of that data just importing right into those programs as well, but that's remains to be seen how that would work. We probably would capture data back to, I don't know when HD started, Joan, was it 97? In the late 90s is when they adopted that new accounting program. And we've been on that. I know Stacy's been looking at pension stuff and different things. If you decide to go with this Pro Resources firm, we would engage them on the health insurance benefits and everything. Rick had put me in contact with Dave Middow and Associates, who does association plans. Jordan is here. Oh, is Jordan? Oh. He went out. Anyway, Jordan's part of the Airport Association of North Dakota. He's the treasurer. And they've been looking at, as an airport association, to get a health insurance plan for all of the airports that are members of the Airport Association. And that's something that maybe Middow can do. There's also a gentleman in Sioux Falls by the name of Luke Hahn, who also does association plans. And that would be something that this company would do on our behalf, is to go out and solicit health insurance and those things. There's no doubt it's going to be more expensive. Dickinson just went through the same exact process. And like I say, in Grand Forks, they offer a high deductible plan, a low deductible plan, and a health savings account. And I think the more we get employees educated on health savings accounts, that's probably the route that they would go. It's no reason why you wouldn't want to do one, but that's hurdles to remain. Things on the pension, like I say, I guess we'll see where that's going to go. Not too concerned about that. We probably have to set up our own program within PERS, I believe. Because now it's part of the city PERS thing. Now, if the airport PERS were a political subdivision, we can do those things. But there's a lot of information we got to get out to employees and stuff with Dave's staff and Henry and Dan, if that's the route that we decide to go. But that's kind of where we're at.
Cat 2 update. Do we have any progress on updating the runway approach system?
Yeah, I gave the authority update at the last meeting. So basically where it stands is we're working on it, and we had, when we went into it, we thought that weather was going to be an issue, and we had this overwhelming support from all the users of the airfield for this Cat 2, obviously. When we collected the weather data, we collected all the user surveys. The opposite was true, where the weather conditions seem to be positive and favorable in support of it, and we're getting not very good responses from all the users, or I probably should say not detailed enough responses to be able to provide enough support and justification so we can present it to the FAA to say, hey, you know, Hector needs this, and you know, we need to spend, you know, millions of dollars for this upgraded approach. So where we're at now is we ultimately we're going to have to go back to all these users and just whether we get them on the phone or do a second round of surveys and ask some more direct questions to get some more detailed response for support of it. So
Who responded at Rochester, and was it Madison? Who are the other two airports that Mead and Hunt worked with to just get the justification? Rochester, Minnesota?
Rochester, Madison, Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Okay,
That
so
I can think of. So we're gonna be.
Yeah, who are the responders from FedEx, Delta, and UPS on those? That's what you can look for to make sure you got the right
That I don't know
contacts.
offhand. I know obviously Rochester had a very compelling case just because of the time sensitivity of medical tests that they have to get out and get shipped in on a timely basis. So it was a very compelling argument. Obviously Hector doesn't have that. So,
But did they have any airline or cargo respondents? And if so, then see who those contacts were.
Yeah, I guess I didn't work on it, so I don't know offhand. But yeah,
Yep.
we're digging into those documents right now
Okay.
to use some similarities. So.
All right, anything else?
I don't.
Hearing none, meeting's adjourned.